Have you ever felt like something was missing in your childhood, but you could never clearly explain what it was? Not abuse, not chaos, just this quiet absence you learned to live with. Because the truth is, not all childhood wounds come from what happened to you. Some come from what never happened at all, like being understood, being comforted, or simply feeling emotionally safe. And that kind of absence doesn't look serious from the outside, which is why most people ignore it, even while it quietly shapes who they become. You grow up, life moves on, everything seems normal, but certain patterns start showing up. How you deal with people, how you react to love, how you see yourself. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. What if those patterns didn't start now? What if they started back then, in moments so small you don't even remember them, but your mind and body never forgot? You didn't suddenly become this way, you adapted to it. As a child, you started noticing things, even if you couldn't explain them. Your emotions felt like too much. Opening up didn't change anything. Sometimes it just made things uncomfortable, so you adjusted. You became easier to deal with. You stopped asking for attention. You became the one who never complains, the one who handles everything alone. And at the time, it felt normal. It even felt like maturity. But here's what most people never question. You didn't outgrow your needs. You learned how to silence them. And when that becomes your default, it follows you everywhere. How you express yourself, how much you tolerate, how little you expect. Until one day, you're not just adapting anymore, you're accepting less than what you actually needed all along. And this is where it starts affecting your life in ways that don't seem connected at all. You meet people, you build connections, but you can't fully relax, even when things are going well. It's not that you don't want closeness, it's that closeness feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar things create tension. So you hesitate, you overthink, you read into things that were never there. Sometimes you hold on too tightly, and other times you pull away without understanding why. Not because the other person did something wrong, but because a part of you doesn't believe this will last anyway. And that belief quietly changes how you act. You test people without realizing it. You expect disappointment before it happens, and over time, you start creating the very outcomes you were afraid of, which only reinforces the idea, not that something happened to you, but that something is wrong with you. And eventually, you stop questioning the pattern and start believing this is just how love is for you. But the real cost isn't just what you feel, it's what you start accepting. When you grow up without consistent love, you don't just struggle with emotions, you slowly lose your reference point for what normal even looks like. So you begin to tolerate things you shouldn't, being half prioritized, half understood, half valued, not because you like it, but because it feels familiar. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because now, it's not just your past affecting you, it's quietly shaping your standards. You stay longer in situations that drain you. You explain away things that hurt you. You convince yourself this is just how people are. And over time, your world starts shrinking, not physically, but emotionally. Less honesty, less depth, less real connection. Until one day, you're not even asking, is this right for me? You're just asking, is this good enough? And that question alone can decide the entire direction of your life. But once you notice this, something shifts. The question changes. It's no longer, why am I like this? It becomes, where did this come from? And that difference matters because it pulls you out of blame and into clarity. You start connecting things you never questioned before. Why certain behavior feels normal to you, why some reactions feel automatic, why familiar patterns keep repeating even when they don't work. This didn't appear overnight. It was built quietly over time, and anything built can be interrupted, but only in the moments where it's actually happening. When you're about to stay quiet just to keep the peace, when you're about to accept something you know doesn't sit right, when you're about to go back to what's familiar instead of what's healthy, that's where it changes. Not all at once, not perfectly, but in real time. Because the moment you start noticing your patterns while they're happening, they stop having the same control over you. And here's something most people don't realize until much later. It shows up in the moments you thought you'd handle better. Not in big situations, but in small ones that matter more than they seem. Like when someone close to you is upset, and instead of knowing what to say, you go quiet. Or when someone needs reassurance, and you feel awkward giving it, even though you care. Or worse, when someone treats you the same way you were treated, and a part of you doesn't even question it. That's when it hits. Not as a realization, but as a pattern repeating itself in real time. And the uncomfortable truth is, you don't pass this on because you want to. You pass it on because it feels normal to you. And if normal is never questioned, it doesn't just stay in your past. It quietly becomes someone else's experience of you. But the fact that you can see this changes your position completely. Because now, it's no longer something happening to you. It's something you can catch while it's happening. And that's where everything starts to shift. Not in big, dramatic moves, but in those quiet moments where you almost go back to your old patterns and then don't. Where you say what you'd normally hold in. Where you stop yourself from accepting something that doesn't feel right, even if it means risking the connection. And yeah, it's going to feel unfamiliar at first, but unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. It usually means you're stepping outside of something that was never healthy to begin with. And the more you do that, the clearer things become, not just about other people, but about yourself. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally refusing to stay who you had to be to survive. Maybe no one ever made this clear to you, but what you needed back then wasn't optional. It wasn't extra. It was basic. And when you don't get something that basic, it doesn't just disappear. You carry the absence of it without even realizing. But here's where it shifts. You're not in that place anymore. You're not stuck with what you were given. You can question it, interrupt it, refuse to keep repeating it, not all at once, but in the choices you make from here. Because at some point, your life stops being shaped by what you went through and starts being defined by what you refuse to carry forward.